In this module, we shall learn about what is money market equilibrium. Let us begin by understanding the wealth that a person has is kept either as money or non-monetary assets. The decision is based on the relative cost and benefits of holding money and other assets. The wealth budget constraint, which shows the combination of assets held by a person in the form of money and other non-monetary assets, implies that when the money market is in equilibrium, that is L is equals to M by P, the bond market too is in equilibrium, that is DB is equal to SP. Therefore, the whole asset market can be analyzed by focusing on the money market. The money market equilibrium is established where the demand for money is equal to the supply of money. All such equilibrium points are represented as the LM curve, which shows all the combinations of interest rate and income such that money market clears. That is, there exists no excess supply or excess demand for money. The slope of the LM curve depends on sensitivity of demand for money to income and interest rate. A change in the real money supply causes a shift in the LM curve. It must be noted that only those points which are on the LM curve represent equilibrium in the money market, and points of the LM curve are the points of excess demand and excess supply in the money market.
After studying this module, you shall be able to know the factors determining demand and supply of money and establishment of equilibrium in money market. Learn about the derivation of LM curve. Identify what causes the LM curve to shift. Evaluate the determinants of the slope of LM curve. Analyze the meaning of positions to the right and left of LM curve. Let us begin by understanding the wealth budget constraint. At any given point of time, an individual decides how much wealth is to be held in the form of money and how much in the form of non-monetary assets, let us say bonds. Money holdings pay no interest but provide liquidity to the holder. However, holding money in non-monetary assets like bonds give return in the form of interest. Higher wealth induces a person to hold more money and more non-monetary assets. The amount of money demanded depends on the volume of transactions being made by the individuals, which in turn depends upon the level of income. Money is held as it facilitates making transactions. We would expect that the higher the level of income, the greater the real stock of money people and organizations will choose to hold. The quantity of real money holdings demanded also depends on the cost of holding money instead of other assets. If the interest rate is high, it makes holding wealth in the form of other assets more attractive. The higher the interest rate on non monetary assets, therefore, the smaller will be the quantity of money demanded. To the extent that one can earn interest on money by holding it as an interest earning bond, this cost will be reduced. However, holding bonds may incur a cost in terms of losing liquidity at hand. This is because by holding a smaller inventory of money balances and an individual runs the risk of not having enough cash to pay bills.
A deficit in cash holding generates the need of temporarily borrowing funds. which comes with the interest cost associated with it. But if the interest foregone by holding cash is large enough, it will be worth risky and bearing these transaction costs. At this point, we shall differentiate between real and nominal demand for money. The nominal demand for money is the number of units of a currency that are demanded. Correspondingly, the nominal demand for bonds is the demand for a given number of rupees worth of bonds. The real demand for money, on the other hand, is expressed in terms of quantity of goods the money will buy. It is the nominal demand for money adjusted for the price level. So, this real demand constitutes the demand for real balances. What real balances are worth in terms of their purchasing power. In the similar way, the real demand for bonds is the nominal demand for bonds adjusted for prices. The reason considering real rather than nominal money holding is that the usefulness of any given stock of money balances for making transactions will be less the higher are the prices that have to be paid to buy and sell the items being exchanged. So, a rise in the price level will reduce the usefulness of money in proportion. Thus, what matters is the stock of money measured in units of output, not in terms of currency units. It should be noted that it is the nominal interest rate on other assets, not the real rate, which represents the cost of holding money. The nominal interest rate is equal to the real rate of interest plus the expected rate of inflation. Since high inflation eats away the real value of money holdings by reducing the amount of goods those money balances can buy in the future, the expected rate of inflation must be added to real interest rate that can be earned on non-monetary assets in calculating the cost of holding money. The wealth budget constraint in the assets market states that the real financial wealth of an individual is the sum for demand for real balances L and demand for real bond holdings DB. Real financial wealth is the sum of nominal wealth NW divided by the price level P. L plus DB is equal to NW by P. The above wealth budget constraint implies that given the real wealth of an individual, there exists a trade-off between demand for bonds and demand for money holdings. It means that a decision to hold more money balances must be accompanied by the decision to hold lesser bonds in order to maintain the real wealth. Therefore, given the real wealth, an equilibrium in money market implies an equilibrium in bonds market also. It means the asset market is in equilibrium and the state of equilibrium and disequilibrium in this market can be assessed in terms of money market or bond market.
From the perspective of the economy as a whole, the total real financial wealth in the economy comprises NW by P is equal to M by P plus SB. This equation says that the total real financial wealth of an economy NW by P takes the form of real money supply M by P or stock of nominal balances divided by price level and the real value of the supply of bonds. The supply of money in circulation is determined by the government's monetary policy. The earlier wealth budget constraint was based on the real financial wealth and its composition of an individual, while this financial wealth represents the financial wealth that is there in the economy. If we insert individuals' constraint in the economy's wealth relationship, we get L plus DB is equal to M by P plus SP. L minus M by P is equal to SB minus DB. L minus M by P is equal to dB minus SP is equal to 0. The above equation implies that if there is excess demand in money market, then there will be a corresponding excess supply in bond market. If demand for money L is equal to the supply of money M by P, then in that case, supply of bonds SP must also equate with the demand for bonds DB.
Moving on to the demand for money, an individual hold his wealth as money and other non-monetary assets. The decision of the division of wealth into money and other assets depends upon the relative cost and benefits of holding money versus other assets. The advantage of money is that it is highly liquid and thus can be spent easily. The cost of holding money is the difference between the interest rates paid on money deposits, that is 0, and the interest return available from non-monetary assets like bonds. The demand for money is the relationship between the quantity of money people want to hold and the factors that determine that quantity. There are three motives for holding money. The first motive is the transactionary motive. Money is needed in order to purchase day-to-day goods and services, such as buying groceries or paying the rent, etc. The transactions demanded for money is money people hold to pay for goods and services they anticipate buying. Whatever money balances are held in cash form in the wallet or in the form of checking account balance constitutes the transactions demand for money. The second motive is contingency precautionary motive. Money may also be kept on hand for contingencies such as having the funds available to pay to have the car repair or home repair or to pay for a trip to the doctor. The money people hold for contingencies represents their precautionary demand for money. The third motive is speculative motive. Money balances held for the purpose of hedging against the risk of fluctuations in the prices of financial assets are called speculative balances. Speculative demand for money is determined by the rate of interest that can be earned by holding money in the form of bonds. The market price of a bond and its yield, that is the rate of return, are inversely related. In holding bonds, there is a risk-return trade-off. Bonds are risky as their prices fluctuate. The decision of holding wealth in the form of money or bonds is taken after balancing the extra interest income that can be earned by holding bonds with the risk that bonds carry. All the three motives of demanding real balances are positively related to real income. Higher income induces demand for all these purposes. We distinguish money held for different motives in order to understand how the quantity of money demanded will be affected by the interest rate. There are other factors also like money income, wealth, prices, etc., which determine the quantity of money demanded. Now we will discuss upon interest rate and the demand for money. The quantity of money people hold for transactionary, precautionary and speculative purposes varies with the interest rate that can be earned from alternative assets such as bonds. When interest rate rise on bond rise, it becomes costly to hold money deposits. So they hold less money. When interest rate falls, people hold more money. The quantity of money households want to hold varies according to their income and the interest rate. It must be noted that the speculative demand for money is all the more affected by the changes in interest rate than the precautionary and transactionary demand. When financial investors believe that the prices of bond and other assets will fall, their speculative demand for money goes up. The speculative demand for money thus depends on expectations about future changes in asset prices. The speculative motive encourages individuals and firms to hold their wealth in money until the reduction in risk by holding money is perfectly balanced by the cost in terms of interest foregone for those money balances. Bonds are risky as their prices fluctuate. Rate of return on bonds is a major determinant for deciding the division of wealth between money and bonds. A fall in rate of return on bonds, risk remaining the same, leads people to hold larger proportion of wealth in the form of money rather than bonds. A rise in rate of return for a given level of risk will push more wealth towards bonds. Thus, the speculative motive results in an inverse relationship between demand for money and rate of interest.
Thus, the demand curve for money is drawn showing the quantity of money demanded, transactions, precautionary and speculative demands at each interest rate, all other things unchanged. The demand for real balances demanded thus depends on two things: the rate of interest and the level of real income. The demand for real balances L can be written as L is equal to Ky minus Hi. The coefficients K and H reflect the income sensitivity and interest rate sensitivity of the demand for real balances respectively. This implies that real balance demand is inversely related to the interest rate and positively related to the income level. Let us now understand the demand for money graphically. The demand curve for real balances is shown in the figure. It is drawn as a function of interest rate while income remains constant. The demand curve for money shows the quantity of money demanded at each interest rate with income level remain fixed. It is downward sloping, expressing the negative relationship between the quantity of money demanded and the interest rate. Next, we have the supply of money. The supply curve of money shows the relationship between the quantity of money supplied and the market interest rate. All other determinants of supply unchanged. The level of money supply is determined by the monetary authority. It regulates the supply of money through its open market operations and reserve requirements. So we assume the supply of money to be exogenously given by the monetary authority, and it is unrelated to the prevailing interest rate in the market. Therefore, the supply curve of money is drawn as a vertical line determined by the monetary policies. Let us look at the money supply curve diagrammatically. The money supply curve shifts only when the monetary authority raises the supply of money through its monetary policy. In the figure, the supply curve of money is a vertical line at that quantity of money supply which is determined by the monetary authority. Further, we shall now understand the meaning of money market equilibrium. Money market equilibrium combines demand and supply curves for money to illustrate equilibrium in the market for money. In the money market, the demand for money by individuals, firms, and other institutions is met by the quantity of money supplied by the monetary authority. The market for money is in equilibrium if the quantity of money demanded is equal to the quantity of money supplied. Let us now look at money market equilibrium graphically. In the figure, money market equilibrium occurs at the interest rate at which the quantity of money demanded is equal to the quantity of money supplied. The quantity of real balances is M by P and the interest rate is R. Moving on to the derivation of LM curve. The demand curve for money is drawn to show the quantity of money people will hold at each interest rate, all other determinants of money demand remaining unchanged. A change in any of those other determinants will shift the demand for money. Among the most important variables that can shift the demand for money are the level of income and real GDP, the price level, expectation, transfer cost, and preferences. Let us derive LM curve graphically. Suppose that the money market is initially in equilibrium at RO with the supply of money M by P and the demand for money curve L0 as shown in panel A of the figure. In panel A of the figure, the initial equilibrium in the economy is at point E0 where M by P is equal to L0 and rate of interest is R0. And at this point, the level of income is Y0. In panel B, the point corresponding to E0 is recorded as point A where interest rate is R0 and income at Y0. As a result of increase in income from Y0 to Y1, the demand for real balances rises from L0 to L1. This increase in demand leads to an increase in the interest rate as the supply for money is held constant. The interest rate adjustment causes the money market equilibrium to establish again at E1. At this new equilibrium point E1, the level of income is Y1. The point corresponding to this new equilibrium is point B at interest R1 and income Y1. When points A and B are joined, we obtain the LM curve. Thus, LM curve is the combination of interest rates and income at which the money market clears. All points on the LM curve represent the money market equilibrium. LM curve is positively sloped as an increase in interest rate is accompanied by an increase in the level of income. This condition of money market equilibrium can also be represented in the form of LM curve equation. M by P is equal to L, M by P is equal to Ky minus Hi, or I is equal to 1 by H in bracket Ky minus M by P bracket closed. Next, we have the shift in the LM curve in the money market equilibrium, and in the derivation of LM curve, the supply of money is held constant, that is exogenously given by the monetary authorities. Any change in the real supply of money will shift the LM curve. Let us look at the shift in the LM curve graphically. Suppose the market for money is in equilibrium and the monetary authority changes the money supply by raising the nominal money balances M. The impact of this change in supply of money is illustrated in panel A of the figure. The initial equilibrium in the economy is at point E0 where M by P is equal to L0 and rate of interest is R0. In panel B, the point corresponding to E0 is recorded as point A where interest rate is R0 and income at Y0. An increase in the money supply when nominal balances increase shifts the supply curve for money rightwards from M by P to M dash by P as shown in panel A. At the original interest rate R0, people do not wish to hold the newly supplied money. They would prefer to hold non-money assets. To restore equilibrium in money market at the income level Y0, the interest rate declines from R0 to R1. This is shown by the shift in the LM curve with the lower interest rate at the same level of income y0. So, the interest rate adjustment causes the money market equilibrium to establish again at E1. The point corresponding to this new equilibrium is point B at interest rate R1 and income Y0.
The LM curve positively sloped. An increase in the interest rate reduces the demand for real balances. In order to maintain the demand for real balances equal to the fixed supply, the income level rises. So, money market equilibrium implies that an increase in the interest rate is accompanied by an increase in the level income. The slope of LM curve, that is, how flat or steep it is, depends upon two things. The first, responsiveness of demand for money to income, K. The coefficient K in the demand for money function measures the responsiveness of demand for money to income. When demand for money is very sensitive to income, that is, when K is high, LM curve is steeper. The second is the responsiveness of demand for money to interest rate H. The steepness or flatness of LM curve is also determined by the sensitivity of demand for money to changes in interest rate. As the interest rate is the cost of holding money, a higher rate will induce less money holdings if the coefficient H is high. Lower H implies a steep LM curve, while a flat LM is due to high value of H. However, the slope of LM curve is equally determined by K and H.
Next, we have the slope of the LM curve. This implies that greater the responsiveness of the demand for money to income as measured by K and lower the responsiveness of the demand for money to the interest rate H, the steeper the LM curve will be. Consider the LM curve equation. I is equal to 1 by H in bracket ky minus m by p bracket closed. It can be seen from this equation that a given change in income y has a larger effect on the interest rate I if k is higher and h is smaller. Moving on to the positions of the LM curve, the points on the LM curve represent the points of equilibrium in the money market. All the points of the LM curve, that is, to its right and left, represent money market disequilibrium. A disequilibrium is characterized by excess demand or excess supply of money. Let us look at the positions of the LM curve graphically. In the figure, consider the points of the LF curve. In the figure, points A and B on the LM curve are the points of money market equilibrium. Suppose if the equilibrium is at point A and there is an increase in income from Y0 to Y1 which leads us to point Y1, then at the same rate of interest R1 it generates excess demand for money. Thus, point C is the point of excess demand for money. Similarly, if we are initially at point B on the LM curve and income level falls to Y0, then at the same interest rate R0, people will demand less real balances, which will lead to excess supply of money. Thus, point D represents the excess supply of money in the money market. This implies that all points above and to the left of the LM curve like D are the points of excess supply of money ESM and all points below and to the right of the LM curve like C are points of excess demand for money.
Let us now summarize what we have learnt in this module. First, money market equilibrium is established where the demand for money is equal to the given supply of money. LM curve is the combination of interest rate and income at which the money market clears. Third, the condition of money market equilibrium can be represented in the form of LM curve equation. M by P is equal to L. M by P is equal to Ky minus Hi, or I is equal to 1 upon H in bracket Ky minus M by P bracket closed. Fourth, any change in the real supply of money will shift the LM curve. Fifth, the slope of LM curve, that is how flat or steep it is, depends upon the responsiveness of demand for money to income K and the responsiveness of demand for money to interest rate H. Sixth, all points above and to the left of the LM curve are the points of excess supply of money, and all points below and to the right of the LM curve are points of excess demand for money, EDM.